What's up, YouTube? What's up, Twitch chat? We got I'm gonna consider it a donation league for the gifted subs of our buddy Medieval on You. So we're playing through some Dimir scam, no shadows, all scam. Dimir scam, trying to make Dolphy plus counterspell work because I'm a fiend for punishment, and we're seeing what happens. But they ran to a 7-2 finish in an LCQ with a list that they considered blue-black trade binder. I think it's got a little more game than that, so I'm going to see how bad I can screw it up. But the idea here is cards like Grief and Subtlety, great Undying effects or great scam effects with Essence Flux and Not Dead After All. Dolphy counterspell is kind of like the follow-up to keep the pressure going, keep our opponents off their feet. Sauron's Ransom. Murktide is kind of our go over the top game enders, a little cheeky snapcaster in here. We've played a little like blue black shadow scam before, but this is definitely going a little bit higher up on the curve, a little bit bulkier. So I'm kind of interested to see how this plays out. I really wanted to make Dolphy plus counterspell work before, couldn't. But this list, adding in Dark Slick Shores and a copy of Sunken Ruins for the filter ability, might allow us the mana to get there. So good to see that. Sideboard, Force Negation, Tashana's Tidebinder, 3 copies of Stern Scolding, Spell Pierces, Flusterstorm, Murderous Cut, love me some murder. Member, Chalice of the Void, EE, Unlicensed Hearse, High Hill Spell. Pop in. Have you seen X-Files Dimir scam with Stalkers and Una's Blackguard? Haven't tried it yet myself, but looks pretty spicy. I have not seen that one, but I am very, very adamantly in the camp that I think Stalactite Stalker is an unplayable magic. I know there have been some legacy fanatics that have done okay with it in Legacy. I think that's a whole different ball game than Modern. Like when I say I think the card is unplayable, I mean I have trophied with it, and I think it was the worst card in the deck by a mile. Not even close. And that's a lot of hate to the Stalker, but I just cannot get behind that card at all. Yeah, I wish it were good. It's a really cool card. It just like never plays out in a relevant manner. Okay. So we got a turn 1 scam off an Essence Fluxed Grief. Question is, what do I want to pitch? If it's an Urza Saga deck, it could be Amulet Titan, in which case I'd rather pitch the Bowmaster. If it's like Hardened Scales or Hammer Time, then I might rather pitch the Dolphy. I could pitch the backup Grief, but I kind of like the idea of going for the Grief and having the ability to do other Grief if the first one doesn't work out. So I think I'm going to pitch the Bowmaster. What they got going on. All right, so it is Amulet Titan. Going to take Dryad Summoner's Pact and plan to like Thought Seize the other Titan or something next turn. Cool. Maybe if we find another land, we can play Dolphy and then Thought Seize on turn 3 and just like get a Titan. Devil. Kraken with grief. They get float mana, get an amulet. Do the math real quick. If they float mana, get an amulet, bounce land, they go up to 4, Razor down to 3, bounce land up to 5. That's still not Titan mana. But I think I am going to just go ahead and grief here. And that way I can just like untap with counterspell next turn. Not have to worry about on the phone. Call your thoughts on the Entiasmo Shadow list. Thanks. Playing variations of that deck the past few weeks. The Ryan's matchup overall has been really good. Even tight matchup. If you land your 6, biggest problem is one ring decks like offers. Yeah, so kind of what I was thinking is the unfair stuff is going to cause a bit of a problem. The fair stuff you're much better against, right? Makes perfect sense. They put creatures onto the board, you feel good again. I think we're just going to go for the beatdown plan. I could get a Titan. I think I like just putting him on a 3-turn clock a little bit more. Makes sense. That horrible top deck in Legacy is just another Delver you can protect with all the free. Yeah, plus like Stalactite Stalker into something like Wasteland is really, really good in Legacy, but we don't have that option in mind. Other Amulet's fine. Them attacking me is really, really nice here because now I can attack back. Before I couldn't attack back because I could just like make a Saga. Feel pretty good here. However, with Una's Blackguard that also works with all +1/+1 scam cards, get some. They do get a little more value, but then you have to play Una's Blackguard. You have to like intentionally register that card in a slot in your deck, and that makes things a little bit worse from the start, right? Like Una's Blackguard in your Bitter Blossom deck is really cool, really interesting, but then you have to play Una's Blackguard and Bitter Blossom. Have them together at the same time functioning. It's a lot worse very, very quickly. Medieval, thank you for the follow as well. I have nothing. Still seem like every draw is heartbeat, not to. Does always feel like Amulet's a top deck away from killing you. Find a Titan here. Doing. Like, I do really love the fact that I thought seized them essentially 3 times. With Grief, Essence Flux, Grief, the second Grief. And they found, it looks like backup Dryad, backup Titan. Really funny. I can just counter this. there any reason to let this go? No, because they could get something that's not Titan. That would make me a sad panda. Last thing I want is for them to go and get like a, what's the name? Hydroid Grixis or something, and gain the life to get out of lethal range. The counterspell doesn't really matter. Oh, Master, do. Like, I can attack with both. They block, double construct on the grief. I fatal push one of the constructs. Matter too much. They picked up a basic forest, right? A on here. Okay. I love this out of Magic Online. I'm going back to read over the log to see what they returned. Where'd it go? Turn Simic Growth Chamber with Simic Growth Chamber's ability. Return Zeo Jimbo to its owner's hand with Simic Growth Chamber's ability. So it doesn't show what they returned because of Magic Online. Just being the pain program that it is. How lame is that? I thought about it for a second. I was like, wait, that doesn't say Vesuva. Yeah, I've seen the bug plenty of times, but when it's like the one relevant piece of information is caused by the bug, you're just like, tell me what they returned to hand. Like, I'm pretty sure it's a basic forest, but I don't know anymore. Also want to know if I'm going to get punished for not letting them get something off the pact and countering that, so they'd have to pay for summoners back. Titan. Copy of the One Ring. Udawara. Just going for the lethal attack here. Not going to work, but I respect it. Play to your outs. On game 2. This is also one of the matchups I really like having things like Spreading Seas in the board for. Gonna make do. Throw Stern Scolding down in the maybe pile. Like hitting Dryads non-zero, but not my preferred way of interacting with it. Also important to note that some of the other scam builds that we've tried, we've really focused on making sure that like all the scam effects on turn 1 gave us a 4/4. So that like Essence Flux on the Grief, definitely good, but adding an extra turn or 2 onto the clock is just want to keep that. And a last minute put in 2 dress down for this matchup. Definitely good here. I don't think it's like a lights out card by any choice or by any stretch. Dress down, I mean. Change up. I think we're just going very early on the Grief plan. Turn 2 Dolphy, turn 3 try to take a Titan. Deck feels very close to the Legacy version. I haven't looked at the Legacy version much. Curiosity. All right, Grief, Essence Flux. Hard time throwing back Damned Grief on turn 1. Reanimate's definitely a really big upgrade. All therapy, animate. Gak. Hogakin now. Yeah, I was going to say there must be multiple versions because I don't think I've seen Hogak in any before. Stalker Wasteland. Pretty dope. Ooh, that's a good one. Really love seeing a Not Dead After All here because that's going to cut into the clock a good bit. Titan. Animate's ultimately a much better card than any scam piece we have in Modern. Animator makes Shadow viable. Also agree with that. I have played like a little bit of Legacy Shadow, not a ton. Probably like less than 20 leagues lifetime. But I do not think I've lost a match to Reanimator yet. Triad. Is kind of like an awkward spot here because I really don't want to Essence Flux this Grief. Kind of hoping. I really hope I find like a subtlety. Like, I mean, I don't want to Essence Flux the Grief I have out. I could Essence Flux the new one. Really like a that much for me. Something they can block with Dryad. I am like a little weak to a top deck Titan right now. Oh, what am I doing? What am I doing? I know one of their cards is Crumbling Vestige. So they've got Titan mana if they have a Titan. I could go for the Essence Flux on their turn. Just to try to like keep them off of actually casting a Titan. Return. Burned. Did have. Put an ability on the stack. What are you doing? Yes. Damage to everything. You got it. Yeah. Now they got to pay for packs, so maybe we can find something to take advantage. Counterspell, I guess, is okay. Why did that feel so good? All right. We're just gonna flash in Snapcaster and start like trying to hit face with it. could save the Snapcaster to try to like snap interact with something like grief, snap undying effect, or something like that. But I think I'd rather just get the Snapcaster into play. Plot going. No. One. Isn't doing me a lot of good. Counter or cast anything off the top. Brick. That's a brick. Now we draw something. Take it. That looks like a scammed subtlety to me. Yeah, buddy. Want to do with it? Yes. Totally worth it. Totally worth it. Who said this was a bad matchup? Not I. That was pretty dope. I approve of the things that occurred in that match. Coming in with 100 bits too. Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. So worth it. So worth it. Sandile. Oh no. Friendly fire. Fire. On one hand, I really like Thoughtseize into Snap Thoughtseize. On the other hand, I feel like I can do something a lot more unfair with this deck. I think I'm going to ship it and look for something busted. Not really more busted, but I can't throw it back, right? More stuff to do. Blood Crypt untap. What does that? Could be scam. Holding up like a bolt. Thing. Crypt, Cycle, Lorian reveal. Now I have no idea. Just like Grixis control. Asmo, is that a thing? Gentle. I mean, that gives away what we're on, right? Pause and confusion. Oh no, our cover's been blown. Figure this out. Start attacking with a Dolphy, I guess. Is risen like a phoenix from the ashes. All right. Has to be a counter spell. No way you don't have a counter spell here. Arcane, what's up? No counter spell. The scoop. The scoop. The 7-card scoop. That's great. That's perfect. Can't be beat. Okay. Unholy Heat, Ragavan, Grixis colors. Find the list you're playing? Absolutely, you can. It is not that one. Hold on. Hold on. On. It is that one. Damn. Okay. I'm assuming Bowmaster. They're on Grixis. Kind of see like any of these. Vault seizes. Not gonna bring in Night. I think your shadow list on Discord. Some people submitted for the RC. Let me go check it out. I don't think I've seen it. From a Dolphin draw. What do we got here? Damn. Agus, Blood Moon, K Command. Love the blue splash for Fluster. Pretty great. Oh, and Iteration. Coffee, not. Appreciate seeing Croxa. Three Bitter Triumph with only 2 Lightning Bolt is wild. Guess if your entire goal is just to like kill whatever hits the battlefield. An interesting list. Have to try that. This is a fine hand. Yeah, you do have the 4/1 mana removal, but just like Bolt being so much so much more versatile than Bitter Triumph. Kind of big. So many preordains. Really know if they're on counter spells or not, so I think I'm gonna pass. Plan to like push inside of combat. I assume they're on some sort of counter. Good. Plans or unfair stuff. Oh, they have counterspell with Cliffs in. Well, I meant like any sort of counterspell, like Spell Pierce, maybe less so Mana Leak, but something that would stop me from solving a removal spell. I could have one here. They wanted to like play Channeler, hold up. Scam control. And is good. I'm gonna get super got by just like Scourge of the Sky Claves or something. Give this other preordained for next turn. Aren't these Steam vents like 7 ticks or something? Or is the price updated yet? I was looking at them, they were like stupid expensive. Golden counter a Scourge. Not sure. Scourge. I don't think it can. I think Scourge is defined everywhere. Check that. Really want either of these. Guess I'll take the Bowmaster, just kind of like force the issue. That retro. Yeah, 17 or 16 ticks. The retro border steam vent. That is cool. Progressive iteration may resolve. All right. My counters. Bowmaster. All kind of rude things that you have done to me. That being said, we're totally going to find something relevant here. I don't know what. I don't know when. I don't know who, where, why. Always scalding. Still have like no idea what they're actually doing here. Are they just Grixis, like Grixis Ragavan pile? It's kind of what it looks like. Have Bowmasters. Like, they gotta have Bowmaster, right? You're not splashing black just for Thoughtseize. They're not playing Giganta, so I have to think they're playing Murktide. Hoping for hard cast grief there. What? Capricious Hellraiser. It'll cost 3 less to cast if you have 9 or more cards in your graveyard. Met that requirement. Enters the battlefield, exile 3 cards at random from your graveyard. Choose a non-creature, non-land card from among them and copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana. So you get 3 random cards from the graveyard. And they hit the Lorien revealed. Kinda rude. Now we finally know what's happening over here. All good, because we're going to top deck this Murktide Regent. Right here. Seen worse. if you're a Snapcaster deck. Moto lagging. Right. The reason we didn't counter DRC, because I didn't want them to follow up with something like a Ragavan. They know I've got Stern Scolding and Not Dead After All in my hand off of one of these Thought Seizes. So I just didn't want the follow up to be like worse than the DRC when I've kind of got the DRC in check with the. I don't think DRC's that likely to kill me from here, but I think they could put together something better than DRC. Ragavan into something. This is definitely the dare you to block attack. Because if you block, I exile the Thought Seizes, shrink the DRC, and then you have to put together something like that kills Dolphy and puts instant back in the yard. Fairly sizable. Touch, shrink the channeler. Take the one. Ow. Earth is in there. A little bit afraid, a little petrified. At some point. I guess exiling like Baubles. Still can't for the life of me figure out what they've got in there. Like scooping game one with 7 cards in hand, having 5 cards here and like not casting anything. That is an anger of the gods. Yeah. Wolves. Thing. Big. We will give you terminate. I want to split up the creatures. Terminate Darcy. He thought sees Darcy. Take Ragavan terminate. Set with that. And terminate. Died. Would have been a really good Murktide turn. Be able to attack in under the terminate. Threats. Was giving them Ragavan. Yeah, Ragavan plus C's a bit of a troll. I didn't give them Ragavan plus C's. I gave them Darcy C's or Ragavan terminate. They took Ragavan terminate. That way I can counter the Ragavan and they can't kill off my hearse unless I animate it. All right. Flooded here. Maybe they're just sitting on a bunch of terminates. Yes, I know I forgot to activate Unlicensed Hearse last turn. Perfect out here. Free expressive iteration. Gross. Show me a grief. Three. Also going to reset Moto real quick. Tagging some kind of bad. Firing up a... Whoops. I want arena. Try this. Did it just like de-sideboard me? know we're up against a Hellraiser deck. Different. Dolphy's got to be just like lights out in the matchup. Also, might need to reconsider Essence Flux for the fact that it does not combo particularly well with Dolphy. Since you can't like target it and then sack off the Dolphy and get it back like you would with flying effects. All right. With it. Kind of hoping that I can find like a grief pretty quickly and it'll just die. Could also just have a thought seed. They want a mulligan. Take my Bowmaster. Now I think we're like counter spelling pretty aggressively. Odd if it's in a position where it's going to tap me out before a dashed Ragavan. Cast Dolphy will hold up the Orc in this turn. I have another Ragavan that can't dash it in on me. No. 2-0, love to see it. Guessing it was kind of like look for a interactive spell for the Dolphy. Didn't hit one. Put up. At least that's what it felt like. Two 2-0 on to round number 3. Not really sure what we want to see. We probably want to see like all the unfair matchups, right? Interesting match indeed. Like I really cannot for the life of me figure out what was in their hand at most points. Like maybe they were flooding out heavily, entirely possible. But like weren't interacting with anything I was doing for the most part. Keep Thoughtseize into Dolphy. I regret keeping Thoughtseize into Dolphy. That, however, pretty good one to top deck. Searing Blaze. Dead. For the critics. Down. I've got to decide if I want to Dolphy. If I want to get to this Murktide. If I'm gonna take 4 regardless, and I might as well take the 4 off the Thoughtseize. I'm either shocking in, playing Dolphy, taking 2 off the Eidolon, or not shocking in. Pass with Grief. Oof. Right, so now I need like a fetch for a basic to play a Murktide. Not a fetch for a basic. Why are we not attacking there? Forgot about Shadow. There. Get another tapped Watery Grave just to keep the basic in my deck. Can't double spell this turn anyway. Murktide. I could get really greedy and like hope they don't realize Shadow again and like attack with the Murktide, play out the Dolphy. But I think I'm just supposed to attack with just Dolthy next turn, hold back the Murktide, put them to 8, and then have a lethal attack the turn after. That like all goes out the window depending on what they have here. Yeah. Double up on the Murktide, you got it. Take that. Is there a world like, am I just sacking Dolthy off for Rift Bolt on the Swift Spear, playing double Dolthy? All right, let's think. If I attack for 3, play out double Dolphy, I've got lethal on board next turn. If their card in hand is a burn spell and they draw a burn spell off the top, I'm dead. If I Rift Bolt the Swift Spear, play out the double Dolphy, then if all 3 of their cards are burn spells, I'm dead. If 2 of the 3 of them are burn spells and 1 of them is a Boros Charm, I'm dead. I think I'm just going to make them have 2 burn spells. Make their card in hand and the card on top both be burn spells. I think having 2 of the 3 opens me up to like a creature being lethal as well. 2 attacks off a creature. This does not, or it does die to a creature plus a burn spell. For my Dolphy. Okay. How am I killing the Swift Spear? I still don't have a clue if they know about Shadow or not. None of these plays have lined up in a way to just give it away. I think is absolutely hilarious. Like to block that one. Such a weird game. Magic in general is weird. Situations aren't helping. Spell Pierce, Fluster Storm. Probably wants some number of Stern Scolding. Not not like Bowmaster's. Might do something like Bowmaster on the draw and Dolthy on the play. Wouldn't mind finding room for Murderous Cut. He's okay. Chalice of the Void's always a funny one because, like, if you can get out ahead on board, then Chalice of the Void can kind of like close things out for you. But if you don't get out ahead on board, Chalice can be a ability. Really need fatal pushes and stuff like that if you're behind. But if you're ahead and just get out like cheap dude, care about it. Else can be good, but it also shuts a bit of our strongest plays right. But like we are, since this isn't a shadow variant, we are a lot less reliant on one drops. But Fatal Push, obviously still really good. Stern Scolding, Spell Pierce, all those still really good. Show me a Boris Charm. Show me a Boris. We're just going to go ahead and fetch up a basic island here. If I don't play into like Skewer the Critics on their turn, if I need to something. These opportunities to cast that while I'm fetching. Charm. On response to the fetch was interesting. It's kind of like Burn when Burn was first like running around is a popular choice for people picking up the format, where it was, hey, if you've got burn spells and you're playing against a control deck, like you always do it in response to their stuff, or into turn if you absolutely have to, or when they're tapped out. And people like follow that to a T. So in that regard, it made sense. I wasn't tapped out. I had a mana open when I fetched. I don't think I did the first time. The second time I had a mana. End of turn. Waiting to respond to something. Lightning Helix. That. Mana efficient. Hopefully catch a creature. Make some use of this subtlety. But if my opponent's going to give me a free like 3 damage here, hard time passing that up. Regardless of subtlety status. I have a 4/4. Spear's good. With spears. Let's see if we can find a counter. Collecting palm. Thankfully, it is not my first rodeo against that particular Magic the Gathering card. Also, I'm getting such a kick staring down this like triple Sunbait Canyon draw. My double Bowmasters. Making me happy. This. Still deflecting palm another Bowmaster. So I've got a lethal attack next turn with subtlety, the double Bowmaster. A little bit of protection. Not for that. Hey. Definitely flashing in subtlety. I'm wondering if I am essence fluxing a Bowmaster. That give me lethal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 off the ping, 7 off the token. So it doesn't give me lethal. It does make it to where they can't tap either the Sunbait Canyons. It would make it lethal with another Bowmaster off the top. That too narrow. I think that's too narrow, but I'm probably going to hit the Bowmaster. Already lethal with bow on top. I wouldn't be right because I wouldn't have the token attacking in. I'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 off the ping. Here. Right. Got. Already had double Boros Charm. Dang. So they were at 8. If we had fluxed the Bowmaster into turn, it would have been ping them down to 7, make a 1/1, untap, attack for 3, 4, 5, 6, put them down to 1. They wouldn't have been able to use the Sunbaked Canyons for anything. They still would have had 3 mana. We wouldn't have an Essence Flux anymore. And we would have had to have murderous cutted our own subtlety or something to stop the deflecting palm. If we had a Bowmaster off the top and we didn't Essence Flux, it would have been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 off the Bowmaster ping. We wouldn't have a token attacking. But if we had Essence Fluxed into turn, pinged them down to 7, untapped, attacked for 6, and then had the new Bowmaster ping, it would have been lethal. So yeah, the only way a new Bowmaster was lethal is if we Essence Fluxed into turn. Then, like I said, we'd lose the Essence Flux, which maybe I didn't need that badly anyway. Wonder if Dalthy's better against their build with Palm and Helix. Dalthy is better on the play than it is the draw, but I still don't think I really want Dalthy. Like, Essence or Deflecting Palm really didn't do anything either of those games, right? So it's not like something I'm just all in on. Oh, I gotta answer Deflecting Palm. Is this a trap hand? This really feels like a trap hand. It's like I've got a piece of interaction, but it's murderous cut, which isn't online for a minute. I've got a counter spell in Force of Negation, but they've shown that they don't want to play stuff on my turn. Murktide needs like Force of Negation and Murderous Cut to go to the yard, which either exiles my yard with Murderous Cut or discards my Murktide with Force of Negation. Bowmaster, pretty mid interactive spell. Yeah, I think I'm going to ship this back. The dreaded, I really hope you don't have a turn 1 creature hand. If you have a creature on turn 1, I probably lose to it. Stop it. Okay. A creature on turn 1. Life is a tiny, tiny iota better. Carry on. Not going to fight over this Rift Bolt. Other hold up counter spell in case they've got like an Eidolon here. Sanctifier or something like that. This I will fight over because they can't have an Eidolon or Sanctifier to follow up the Skewer. And if they had like a Swift Spear, they would have played it before the Skewer. They could just have like another 1-mana burn spell. Okay. Now we are in need to find a grief. Need to find a subtlety, Murktide, something territory. Go ahead and fetch up, tap something. Basics in the deck. Here, I don't think I'm countering anything unless it's Boros Charm exactly. Boros Charm's the only one that takes a turn off the clock. They have been sitting there with 4 cards, like missed last land drop, so pretty good chance that their whole hand is just like more interactive spells. That, however, is like god tier draw right here. Could not have asked for something better. There's a chance that I don't want to counter this. I gotta counter this. There's a reason that I'm saying things like I'm letting anything resolve that's not Boros Charm. Searing Blaze, Lightning Helix, Royal. Take Helix, Searing Blaze, leave the Vortex. With Searing Blaze, it does have 2 targets. So even if they like find the land and I blink the grief, it still deals 3 to me. Clearly going to find a Murktide off the top. Post. Okay. Fair enough. Tide. Tide, please. I just can't race the vortex, right? They take 2. I think I have to top. They have to whiff, and I have to top deck a Bowmaster. That's my only out. They whiff, or they go to kill the grief. I top deck a Bowmaster. Now Bowmaster doesn't do it. I have no way to like kill off my own grief and then not dead it to get the wicked roll trigger. Outs. I was gonna make a joke about Murderous Cut. I was going to make a joke that I think that is my out. And that is hilarious. So Rolling Vortex triggers, pings them twice. Still on their upkeep. We Murderous Cut our own grief. Gets around Eidolon trigger. Wicked roll trigger kills them. We don't deserve this. We don't deserve any of this. Oh, super close. About as close as you can get. We don't deserve it at all. Oh, man. Sorry, OP. I did nothing right. Chris Cut, too good for this world. Just chilling at the Dimir scam 3-0. Good list, yeah. This is the list, or if you want the link, it is exclamation deck list in chat. Take you straight to it. Or if you're a visual learner, well, bam. 98% compliments of medieval in the chat. 2% compliments of us throwing in a sunken ruin, and about it. I think we shaved like third Sauron's Ransom and Ledger Shredder. Nothing too great. Vast majority there. I gotta keep this right because I can look for lands I can maybe preordain into an Undying. Tried Dimir Scam Shadow seems pretty decent. Yeah, we were kind of talking about that before we started. This particular list doesn't have the shadows, but I've been thinking there was something to the Dimir Shadow list for a minute. I just like couldn't piece it together. Oh yeah, Counterspell was the other change, wasn't it? Dropped like mana leaks for counterspells. And not a land, not a land, land. Okay. And would have loved a second land for Dolphy. But a grief off the top would be pretty S tier as well. All right, so we discard Dolphy to hand size. That means if they go for a living end, we exile their living end and we can recast it with Dolphy to reset the board. Shuffler really hates you. The Shuffler has been my mortal enemy for as long as I've played Magic Online. Plays discard Dolphy to hand. We do what we got to do up in here. Don't have a lot of high quality lines to us, but needed to even things out for the murderous cut. Hey, that was entirely planned and well thought out, and slightly ashamed that you could think anything else. That was top 5 luckiest top decks of my Magic career. Have a force of negation. Kind of just hoping to find second land before they decide they can just kill me and go for it. I don't think the odds are too in my favor. They find a violent outburst. It's kind of just game over for me. Dolphy does need us to come off. Old sickness. Adult. We'll just scoop. We'll go to game 2. You can have this one. I should say Shuffler can have this one. Flusterstorm, Spell Pierces, Force, Chalice, Hearse, Spellbomb. You really didn't want to lose to Living End, did you? Tidebinder's on the short list to bring in. I think it's like these are ahead of Tidebinder, but you can counter like Stifle a Cascade trigger. So Tidebinder does have like subtleties, not too great. Sauron's Ransom's a little. like my next choice to possibly bring out, but don't think there's any rather have than Bowmaster. Maybe a Stern Scolding or two if I'm really anti-grief. Again, I think it's kind of like plan A, counterspell, grave hate. Plan B, tricky little things like Tidebinder. And then plan C is like Stern Scolding Grief. And I think just having a threat to play out to the battlefield a little bit better than plan C. Played against Living In, but I was prepared. If you're expecting it to be popular, then it's better to be prepared and not play against it than criminally unprepared and see it 7 times. Idea of Fallen. We're definitely throwing this back. But for the sake of mental exercises, I like to look at a hand like this and say, okay, what's the best thing I could possibly see to draw into to make this playable? It's like a black card's probably best thing I could find. But even then, it's a 7-turn clock with a 2 green. Ship that back. This is a lot better. We're back. Tidebinder. Play Bloodstained Mire first. Cast the Chalice with the Spell Pierce backup in case they have a Force of Negation. Attempt to Spell Pierce the Force of Negation. We find a second land. Who knows? Me and this shuffler got to have us a talk. we got some conversing to do here. Okay. Option number 1, cast Thoughtseize. Option number 2, cast Spellbomb. If I cast Thoughtseize, then if they let it resolve and they have a Besage You, they don't have to do anything. They can just like go to my end step, Besage You the Chalice, untap. If they're okay with just getting back like an end. Or if they have Street Wraith. Option number 2, cast the Spell Bomb. They can't Besage You both of my things. They could have Force of Vigor, but if they have a Force of Vigor, they just like Force of Vigor after they resolve. If I had another blue card, I would be like snap on the Thoughtseize plan. I just want to take the Curator. I think that helps them dig a little bit more. Want to take the grief because they can hard cast it. Thing that they are lining themselves up to be able to hard cast. Was an interesting thought seize. Shocking. Can't outburst. They top deck an endurance. Feels a little endurance. Yep. Show me this endurance. Not an endurance. Top deck the Beseiju. Hmm. Top decked it. You didn't even cycle the curator for it. You just top decked it. Kind of savagery is that? Kind of monster are you? Who just raw dog top decks the Beseiju like that? All right. My out. Chris cut. All right, so I'm taking 8 here. 4. 4 seems like a very precarious life total to get to. On a fetch, because then I'm just dead to the grief. In case I do find like a Murktide. Find another curator. Bruh. Have discussion. If you will. Okay. Where did that one go wrong? Not seeing the second land hurt a ton. But then, like, we didn't see the second land. We didn't see another blue card for force. Would have helped out a ton. Top deck Beseiju, we can't do anything about. Maybe we were supposed to just play out the spell bomb at second turn. What did we do the second turn? We thought seized. They drew into the Beseiju, shocked in and passed. What did we do there? We had Chalice out. We cast Unlicensed Hearse and they forced it, and then Beseiju. So even if we cast the Nihil Spellbomb, they still force it, and we don't have a follow-up, right? So doesn't really matter which one we go with. Doesn't change out the result. Usually, like, kind of reassuring, at least for me. I'd rather know that no decision mattered. Good matchup for this deck too, but the RNG gods didn't smile on you this one. They the RNG gods came around for the burn matchup. They did not come again for living in. Dude, that top deck Beseiju was gross. Like the turn before, I was debating between a Thoughtseize and a Nihil Spellbomb with no second land. I was like, okay, he's got Beseiju. This Thoughtseize looks awful. If he's got like Force and Negation, the Spellbomb looks awful. We'll go for the Thoughtseize. No Beseiju, awesome. Coast is clear. Next turn, draw into the Unlicensed Hearse. And I'm like, okay, Hearse or Spellbomb. Got the Force Negation, but at least you don't have to Beseiju. Nope. Wrong again. But GG's for sure. That was really sweet. Kevin coming in with the raid. Thank you so much. Welcome everybody from Kevin's stream. Hope you had an awesome one. We're playing through some blue-black scam stuff with lands, as you can clearly see. A little more like it. This does scam things. I did say I needed more lands. That was on me. I apologize for it. Shouldn't have said anything. Shouldn't have opened my big mouth. On the bright side, got grief. And opponents on at least a mulligan to 5. But for everybody coming over from Kevin's stream, welcome. My name is Michael, Cntrlfreak on Magic Online. Play a lot of Modern Death Shadows. So if that's something up your interest realm, maybe you're in the right play at the moment. Okay, so we got a little Amulet Titan. I'm not opposed to just taking Amulet and the One Ring. Probably fine. Leave him with the Grazer. Let him get some mana. I could also take the Amulet and the Grazer and just say, like, I'm going to try to find an answer to the One Ring by the time you get there. Probably greedy. So take Amulet. Looks the go. Got you on a 7-turn clock. Maybe less if we find another land, but we know how good we are at doing that. Razor, bounce land, pick up basic. Land. So good at this game. We finally do it. We finally hit the lands. Christmas miracle. Okay. 3-turn clock. with a counterspell. Area West is fine. Oh yeah. Two-turn clock with a counterspell. It is an Urza Saga. Two-turn clock plan kind of gone out the window with that Saga, because now they can make a dude double block the. Basically, they buy themselves a turn. 2, 3, 5. So still not Titan mana. Should be able to kill them with the Dolphy time regardless. Got it. Still attacking. Absolute mad lad. Kill off the construct token because it has power and toughness, and that scares me. Even if they make a construct, go get a shadow spear, strap it up to the construct, we can just not attack with the grief. Dead to the Dolphy. Any thoughts of just naked griefing there? I could. I don't think there's anything that griefing there answers that the counterspell doesn't. Because if they have like a, what's it called, a second Titan or something off the top, that's fine. Like just counterspelling the thing that says Primeval Titan. If they have a Cavern of Souls, we can't take that with grief and can't stop it with counterspell anyway. I don't think they have enough mana to do anything like tutor up a cavern, play it, and then play a Titan. But it probably is free to do. So yeah, I'll give you that one. Might as well just like cast it. Maybe they're sandbagging an amulet or something. That an amulet does much for them, but Cavern's less and less common with the presence of defense grid in the board. You had me in the first half, but then you kept talking and said defense grid, and now I'm sad. Why are we on defense grids? Take that defense grid shenanigany nonsense. Put it way over there. Way over there. Rhinos and Living End are pretty hard. I believe that. Don't want nothing to do with either of those cards. Besides, couldn't they just like main phase it? Are you that much better against main phase Rhinos than you are against like Violent Outbursts into Rhinos? I don't know. I don't play like any Titan. I gotta do kind of Chalice. Chalice just for Summoner's Pact. No other relevance to it whatsoever. Everyone's playing fair Magic, then Amulet should win. If everyone's playing fair Magic, there shouldn't be an Amulet option. You can't have all fair decks and then throw Amulet in there. Messes up the entire computation. Hater indeed. Get Amulet. Okay. So we can't stop like a turn 1 Amulet anyway. So do I want to keep this in the hopes that Preordain can find us into something to clock them with? Or do I want to mulligan to try to find a hand with like a turn 1 scam or Thoughtseize? I think I should mulligan. It says like no clock. Best case scenario is we find. You like keeping these hands? My concern is like best thing we can find is a grief, but that means like we're not doing anything on turn 1. We're playing Preordained. They're gonna have their turn 2 free. I feel like on the draw I need to find a Thoughtseize or like a turn 1 grief. Like on the play, I think I would agree with you completely that having the turn 1 Preordain try to set up for turn 2 a lot better. But on the draw, just I'm afraid that that hand would do nothing. So now option number 1, Thoughtseize, try to take like a 3-drop, or hold up Subtlety plus Essence Flux to try to interact with like an Azusa or a Dryad. Gonna hold up Subtlety, because even if they don't do anything, I can still flash in the Subtlety and just get a body on board. Now you're not playing anything until turn 3. Well, the plan was to like flash in the Subtlety if nothing happened. If something happens that I need to interact with, I could still like flash in Subtlety like that. But if nothing happened, then I could still just flash in Subtlety and Essence Flux 3/3 just to get a clock going. That was kind of like the backup plan. Not like the best backup plan, but the other option was what Thoughtseize be weak to like a double or a duplicate of something if they had like Dryad plus Azusa. Personally, I think this is going fairly well for us. Quite the awkward curve out, but you know, gotta do. 4. And Growth Chamber, pick up Beseiju, take out the EE if they want to. What I want to know is, where's our Creeping Tar Pit? Well, you see, it was between Creeping Tar Pit and Sunken Ruins, and we were just like going back and forth for a while, and wars were fought over this decision. We sent our ships out into the Mediterranean. Somehow we just ended up with Sunken Ruins. Cities were decimated over this choice. It was not taken lightly. Tank. Hilarious. West is being transmuted. First pact is achieved. And has seen pretty decent in this league. It has when we've seen 2 of them. When we've only seen 1 mana, not so much. All right, bounce land, pick up something. I pray to the old gods. Counterspell. 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 Not quite. So close, though, to being able to, like, kill our own subtlety and not dead it to get rid of a Titan that way. Been pretty sweet. Yeah, if it was a Flux, it would have been better. But not even gracious enough to Beseiju one of our lands to give us Revolt. Got a Primeval Titan. Want you to have a Primeval Titan, but it doesn't look like I've got much say in the matter. Okay. Your OP has excellent taste. Our OP is an evil human being, and I understand it's you, but you should not be supporting this. Apparently, I've been hearing talk about Amulet playing defense grid nowadays, and I can't begin to tell you how much that upsets me. Like, if you hate fun, just say so. But it does remind me of an absolutely hilarious story from an SCG Open way back when KCI was top of the meta. I was playing Grixis Shadow. Had a pretty good matchup against KCI, like Gurmag Anglers, Stubborn and Owls, blah, 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 blah. And I'm in like round 12 or 13 of a GP or something. And I get matched up against Shaheen Sarani, SCG Pro, played in like Opens, Pro Tours, blah, blah, blah. And I thought he was going to be on like blue-white control, known for playing a lot of control. Turns out he's on KCI. Yeah. Opponent scooped. Back to the story. Turns out he was on KCI. We're playing through our match, and I've got like a Gurmag Angler down. He's got a couple cards in hand. He, end of my turn, sacrifices that land that you can, what is it? It's the colorless land that gains a life if you have like 3 artifacts on your upkeep, and you can sacrifice it to go tutor up an artifact. The fair something fair, Inventor's Fair, yeah. Have one of those. Goes in, he's like, this is game 1. The end of my turn, he's like cracking the Inventor's Fair, searching through his deck, and he's like, all right, I know you're about to call a judge on me. This is something that Matt Nass talked me into, and like nobody's playing at main deck, and I'm like, oh God. And he goes and gets a Defense Grid. And I like look at it, read it over. I've seen Defense Grid, haven't played against it a ton, but I've seen it. Like, all right, yeah. So he untaps and he goes, put Defense Grid on the stack. And I'm like, yeah, resolves. And he goes, cool, tap out KCI. And he's got like 4 artifacts on board. I'm like, okay, so that costs how much more to cast myself? 3. Look down at my 4 lands, tap all 4, stubborn denial the KCI. And he's like, I thought I had you there. And like scoops up all of his stuff. And like, I ended up talking to him a couple more times at other events. One of the nicest dudes I've ever met in my life. But it was just an absolutely hilarious interaction. It's like, I thought I had you there. Thought that Defense Grid was going to be good enough. Then you let it resolve. I was like, my bad. All right, let's open up our chest, and then we'll get going through with our breakdown of the deck. Werewolf, didn't this card see like some legacy play? Like Flash, ETB, Blink something. I want to say it showed up in like a couple legacy. I don't know if it still did. Inia. Subterranean Schooner. $65 play points. We take those. Take those. Surgical Extraction. Dude, that was like 140 play points. 145 play points, all 5 chests. That's a pretty good rate. All right. Talking about the list. What do we think? What do we like? What we didn't like? The land situation. I think 19 lands is like a good number. I just could not see the second land in multiple games, especially that match against Living End. I got stuck on 1 a lot. That is one of the reasons that I've really liked Street Wraith in the list with Shadow. But if you're not running Shadow, I wouldn't run Street Wraith. But it has been nice to like give you more free cantrips, kind of. Sauron's Ransom. I don't think we ever cast Sauron's Ransom. Let me divide this up a little bit. I don't think we ever cast Sauron's Ransom the entire league. We cast Snapcaster once, literally as a 2-1 beater for 2. Didn't Snapcaster back anything, just played out the threat. Grief, excellent, but I think like Grief, Undying Effects a known quantity at this point. Essence Flux, a little awkward with Grief. 3-2 Grief leaves a lot to be desired. Still good, still really good. But adding like 2 extra turns to the clock is non-zero. Dolphy was pretty solid. The mana worked out pretty well for being Dolphy and Counterspell. But we also could have just been lucky to like never see the basics. Bowmaster was fine. Push was fine. I don't know what I think about Essence Flux. Like, I really wish this made it a 4/4, but I don't know. Like, having 3/3 Grief and 3/3 Subtlety felt really weird. Here's the deck list. Apparently, Stream Decker. Come on. Apparently, Stream Decker left the chat and didn't want to pull up the deck list. I think I'd probably cut the Sauron's Ransom and the Snapcaster. Like, if you do anything scam or unfair related, you really don't need the Sauron's Ransoms to get you back in the game. And Snapcaster feels like it's just too mana intensive. Murktide, we saw Murktide a couple times. I don't know if we cast anything bigger than a 5/5 Murktide. I know we cast it against Burn. It was pretty good, but I think overall Murktide was a little weak. Still like better than Sauron's Ransom or Snapcaster in my mind. Dolphy was really good just as an unblockable 3/2. Like, we never sacked it for its ability. We just kind of threw it out there and swung through stuff. Bitcrafter, what's up? Hope you're having an awesome Friday. Ransom hot garbage. I think Ransom really needs like a critical mass of free stuff. So Force Negation, Subtlety, stuff like that. And then it's really good in the One Ring builds. A little bit less so in the build that it's just like a fair 3-mana draw 3. I'd almost rather have like Archmage's Charm there. I don't know. The deck was cool. It does have a few little like minor speed bumps that need to be adjusted, but it was solid. And I appreciate solid. Out of the sideboard, I know if Medieval's still in here, talked about playing Dress Down in the board. I could see Dress Down being decent. Spellbomb and Hearse were okay. I think I'd rather just have one of these be like another Flusterstorm if Scam's going to be, or not Scam, if Living End's going to be as popular as it is. Because we saw it like 3 or 4 times today. That I would have just rather had another Flusterstorm. Especially when you're getting stuck on one land. Sitting here looking at a Hearse when you're stuck on one land feels absolutely awful. That's just, and yeah, that's how I feel. Rather play Archmage's Charm over it. Yeah, you'd probably have to go up to the 20th land. Maybe you could keep 19, but I feel like I'm in a deck that I think wants a 3-mana spell or can reasonably afford a 3-mana spell. I think Archmage's Charm is better, but I don't think there's a lot of decks that I want a 3